What if the one thing a man buys to fill his stomach ends up filling his heart instead? That was the question Lucas Granger never expected to face on the dusty afternoon he rode into Silverwater Creek in the summer of 1878. Lucas had spent 3 long days on the trail with nothing but dried jerky and hard bread that tasted like old leather. Dust clung to his coat, his throat felt like sandpaper, and his stomach ached for real food. When he reached the edge of town, he saw how much it had grown since he last passed through years ago. Wooden sidewalks, new shops, a hotel with shiny glass windows, even a newspaper office. Silverwater Creek was no longer just a pit stop. It was a town with life. He stopped at the livery stable, stretched his sore muscles, and handed his horse, Thunder, to the stable boy. Lucas's tall frame unfolded slowly as he tried to work the stiffness out of his back. At 32, he was still strong, but years of riding and sleeping under open skies had carved lines of weariness around his eyes. "Take good care of him," Lucas said, giving the boy a coin. "Yes, sir. Water, feed, and a good rub-down." Lucas nodded and headed down the street, hoping to find a place serving food. But before he spotted any restaurant sign, something stopped him in his tracks. The smell of fresh bread. Warm, soft, real. It drifted toward him like a promise. His feet carried him straight to a small shop with a hand-painted sign that read, "Creek Bakery." When he pushed the door open, a bell jingled, and the world seemed to pause. The bakery was warm and glowing, filled with shelves of golden loaves and pastries behind a glass case. But none of that compared to the woman behind the counter. She wiped flour from her hands, her chestnut hair tied back in a simple knot. A few loose strands framed her face, giving her a natural beauty more striking than anything Lucas had ever seen on the frontier. Her eyes, the color of warm amber, looked up at him. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, steady, and somehow musical. Lucas removed his hat, suddenly aware of how rugged and dusty he looked. "Ma'am," he said, clearing his dry throat, "something smells mighty fine in here." She smiled, and that smile changed everything. It lit her face, softened her features, and made Lucas forget how tired he was. "That would be today's sourdough," she said, fresh from the oven. "I'd like a loaf, if you can spare it." "Of course." She wrapped the bread for him, moving with calm grace. "Anything else? Cinnamon rolls are fresh too." "I'll take one." Lucas watched her hands. Strong hands, capable hands. They told a story of hard work and early mornings. He even noticed a small burn mark on her wrist, likely from a hot pan. To him, it was a sign of purpose and pride. "That'll be 15 cents, she said. He put down a silver dollar. "Keep the change." She raised a brow. "That's generous, mister." "Lucas Granger," he replied. "Just passing through." "Penelope Cassidy," she said. "Welcome to Silverwater Creek." Lucas stepped outside and tore a piece from the still warm bread. One bite was enough to make him close his eyes in relief. For the first time in weeks, something tasted like home. He looked back at the bakery door, and before he knew what he was doing, he walked right back inside. Penelope looked up, surprised. "Did you forget something, Mr. Granger? How many loaves do you have left today?" "A dozen, give or take." "I'll take them all." "All?" She blinked hard. "That's a lot of bread for one man." "I've got hungry men at camp," he lied without thinking. Penelope packed the loaves slowly, still watching him with curiosity. Lucas placed $2 on the counter, then added softly, "And I'll take something else, if you're willing to sell it." She paused. "What kind of something?" "Information," he said. "What time you close, and whether you might join a traveler for supper tonight." Penelope's amber eyes held his for a long moment. Lucas felt his heart beat faster than it had on any cattle drive. Finally, she smiled. A real smile this time, warm enough to melt even the hardest trail dust. "I close at 6, she said, "and I might be persuaded to meet you for dinner at 7. At the hotel restaurant, if the company is polite." Quote, "I clean up better than I look," he promised. "We will see." Minutes later, Lucas donated most of the bread to the children near the livery and asked the stable boy to take the rest to the church in the morning. Then he washed, shaved, and put on the best shirt he owned. At 7 sharp, he walked into the hotel restaurant. Penelope was already seated by the window, wearing a simple blue dress. Her hair was styled neatly, revealing the line of her neck. She looked even more beautiful than before. "You're right on time," she said. "I wouldn't miss this for anything," Lucas replied. They talked through dinner like they'd known each other for years. She told him about her bakery, her brother, her journey west. He told her about life on the trail, and how freedom sometimes felt more like loneliness. When he walked her home under the moonlight, something shifted between them, something gentle, something hopeful. He kissed her hand, wanting to kiss more but stopping himself. "Good night, Miss Cassidy," he said softly. "Good night, Mr. Granger." Quote. Lucas walked back to the hotel with a lighter step than he'd had in years. For the first time in a long time, he was excited for the next morning. Lucas woke the next morning with a feeling he hadn't known in years. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't nerves. It was something deeper, something warm, something that made him shave twice and brush the dust from his coat even though he knew he'd get dirty again within minutes. He told himself he was only going to check on his horse, but his boots turned toward the bakery long before his mind admitted it. The bell above the bakery door jingled, and the smell of warm bread wrapped around him like a welcome he didn't deserve. Penelope looked up from the display case, and the smile that spread across her face hit Lucas harder than any punch he'd taken in bar fights across the West. "You're early," she said, brushing flour from her apron. Her amber eyes sparkled as if she'd been expecting him. "Couldn't stay away," Lucas admitted. "Something about this place pulls me in." Quote. Penelope laughed softly, and Lucas felt the sound settle right into his chest. Before he could say more, a younger woman stepped out from the back room carrying a tray of rolls. She stared at Lucas with curiosity. "Oh," Penelope said. "Lucas, this is my assistant, Sarah Miller." "So you're the man who bought every loaf yesterday," Sarah said with a grin. "Half the town's been talking about you." Lucas rubbed the back of his neck. "Didn't mean to stir up trouble." "In a small town," Penelope said, "even buying new curtains can cause gossip. Buying out a bakery is practically headline news." Sarah stayed behind as Penelope motioned for Lucas to follow her into the warm kitchen. The brick oven glowed, filling the room with heat and the smell of rising dough. "I wanted to thank you properly," Penelope said, lifting a cloth from a loaf resting on the counter. "Reverend Thompson came by this morning. He said the bread fed a family passing through who lost everything. Your kindness made their night." Lucas felt something shift inside him, a quiet pride. Glad it helped. Quote, Penelope revealed a beautiful braided loaf, golden brown and soft. "This is for you, a special recipe from my grandmother." Lucas stared at it, touched more deeply than he expected. "Thank you, Penelope." Her hand brushed his as she wrapped the loaf. The touch was light but strong enough to send a spark through him. "I close early today," she said. "If you'd like to see more of Silver Water Creek, I could show you around." "There's nothing I'd like more," Lucas said. They met at 1 in the afternoon. Penelope wore a pale green dress, her hair loosely braided over her shoulder. Lucas felt his breath catch. "You look," he paused, trying to find a simple word that fit the moment. "Beautiful." She blushed, the color rising warmly on her cheeks. "Thank you. Shall we go?" Quote, she slipped her hand through his arm and they walked through town together. Every person who passed them looked twice. Some smiled, some whispered. Some stared openly. "Your mystery deepens," Penelope teased. "People are convinced you're either a government agent or a runaway millionaire." Lucas laughed. "I'm just a cowboy who likes good bread." "And who buys 12 loaves at once," she added. They left town behind and followed a path to the creek. The water sparkled in the sun, rushing gently over smooth stones. They spread a blanket under a cottonwood tree and shared bread, cheese, apples, and sarsaparilla. The breeze rustled the leaves. The creek whispered. And for the first time, Lucas forgot the weight he carried from years on the trail. Penelope lay back on the blanket and gazed up at the sky. "Don't you ever want to stop moving?" she asked. "Don't you ever want roots?" Lucas lay beside her, studying her face. Her eyes were soft, curious, hopeful. "I always thought staying in one place would trap me," he said. "But now—" He hesitated, then said the truth. "Now, I wonder if I've been running from the wrong thing." She turned to him. Their faces were inches apart. Silence stretched between them, warm and full. "Lucas," she whispered. He reached out slowly, giving her time to decide. She closed the distance herself, and their first kiss was soft, gentle, and full of something new, something real, something neither of them wanted to end. When they pulled back, she looked at him with wonder. "I wasn't expecting you," she said. "Neither was I," he replied. The afternoon passed in laughter and stories. They splashed in the creek, walked barefoot on sun-warmed stones, and sat close enough that Lucas could feel the warmth of her shoulder against his. By the time he walked her home, they were hand in hand. "Dinner tomorrow?" she asked at her door. "Nothing could keep me away." And when he kissed her goodnight, neither of them pretended it was only polite. This time it was deeper, more certain, a promise. That night, Lucas lay awake in his hotel room with one thought repeating in his mind. He had ridden into town hungry for bread. Instead, he'd found the beginning of a future he never knew he wanted. Lucas woke before sunrise the next morning, with a steady warmth in his chest. For the first time in years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. Silverwater Creek wasn't just a stop on his long road anymore. It was beginning to feel like home. He spent the morning helping the blacksmith repair a wagon wheel just to keep his hands busy. Every few minutes, his thoughts drifted back to Penelope. Her smile, her laugh, the way she said his name like it carried meaning. That evening, he knocked on her door with a small bunch of wildflowers picked from the hillside. Penelope opened it almost instantly, as if waiting on the other side. She blushed at the sight of the flowers. "Come in, Lucas," she said, her voice soft. Her little house felt warm and full of life. A small dining table was set with 2 plates. A lamp glowed softly, and a pot of stew simmered with a smell that made Lucas feel like he'd stepped into a memory he didn't know he needed. "You have a beautiful home," he said. "It's small, but it's mine," she replied, placing the flowers in a glass jar. Dinner was simple, warm, and perfect. Rabbit stew, garden vegetables, fresh bread, of course. They talked like old friends, laughed like 2 people who'd shared a lifetime, and when Lucas reached across the table and took her hand, she didn't pull away. He told her his heart plainly. "I'm supposed to join a cattle drive next month," he said. "Good money, long trail, but I don't think I want to go." Penelope's eyes softened. "Lucas, why?" "Because staying here feels right." "Because you feel right." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she rose and sat beside him, her hand resting on his knee. "Stay for the summer," she said gently. "See how it feels. See if this town can be home. See if we can become something real." He nodded. "I'll stay." From that night on, they became a part of each other's days. Lucas got a job at the Hartwell Ranch, working horses and helping with cattle. Penelope baked each morning and welcomed him into her afternoons and evenings. They walked by the creek, shared picnic lunches, and spent long nights talking in her cozy parlor. Weeks turned into months. Summer slipped toward fall, and Lucas knew his answer long before the leaves changed color. He didn't want the trail anymore. He wanted Penelope. One sunny afternoon on a quiet hill overlooking town, Lucas took a velvet pouch from his pocket and opened it with shaking hands. "Penelope Cassidy," he said, his voice low but steady. "I came here only looking for bread, but I found the home I didn't know I needed. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Yes, Lucas, yes, I will." He slid a simple gold ring with a small pearl onto her finger. She kissed him with so much joy that the whole world seemed brighter. The wedding was planned for mid-October. But fate had other plans. 2 weeks before the ceremony, Lucas broke his leg in a ranch accident. The doctor told him he wouldn't be standing for weeks. Penelope refused to postpone the wedding. "We'll have it right here in the parlor," she said. If you can't walk to me, I'll walk to you." On the wedding day, Lucas stood on one leg with crutches at his side, holding her hands as Reverend Thompson spoke. When he said, "You may kiss your bride," Lucas kissed her with a full heart, steadying himself against her as she held him tight. They became Mr. and Mrs. Granger in the warm glow of lamplight, surrounded by friends, laughter, and love. Years passed gently. Lucas and Penelope built a life together, opening a cafe beside the bakery, the Loaf and Ladle. Travelers praised their meals, locals filled the tables daily, and the scent of Penelope's famous sourdough drifted through the street each morning. Their daughter, Elizabeth, was 3 years old when she began calling the bakery Mama's House of Magic Bread. Another baby was on the way, and Penelope moved through her days with the same warm glow Lucas first fell in love with. One spring morning, Lucas stood behind the counter handing coffee to travelers, while Elizabeth built towers with wooden blocks in the corner. Penelope walked in from the bakery with a tray of cinnamon rolls, her smile brighter than the sunlight behind her. She kissed Lucas on the cheek. "Stagecoach crowd's hungry today," quote. "Always," he said, sliding his arm around her waist. Later, when the cafe quieted, Elizabeth climbed into Lucas's lap. "Story, Papa," she said. "Tell the one about the cowboy and the bread lady." Lucas and Penelope exchanged a tender smile. He kissed the top of his daughter's head and began. "Once upon a time, there was a very hungry cowboy who rode into a little town called Silver Water Creek." Penelope leaned on his shoulder, resting a hand over her growing belly as he continued the story of how they met, how a dusty cowboy bought every loaf of bread just to win the baker's heart. As Lucas spoke, he realized it again with deep certainty. He had come into town seeking only a warm meal. Instead, he had found love, home, and a life richer than anything the open trail ever offered. And every day since, he chose it all over again.